this is RICKY, the YouTube Tech Guy. Hey guys, so today we are bringing you the Razer phone review. Now, this is a little bit late because I recorded it before CES, and as I went on, I just really wanted to get a much better review out there. So I re-recorded the entire video, and this is it. Starting off with, since I didn't want to make a gaming review and a regular review, what I decided to do was actually have a gameplay video running at all times. So I'm starting to play right now. Now, all of the games are going to be at the 120 Hz refresh rate. I am filming this at 60 FPS, so that will be better for you to see the actual quality if you can watch it at that resolution. Second, the little green text that you're going to see in the games towards the top, that is going to be the frames per second. So this is running at 120 Hz on all of these games. I forced it to, and then you also have the frames per second so you can see how it plays. Now, I did casual games and regular games, but I know a lot of gamers are interested in this phone, so I wanted to put that running. Now let's get to everything else on this phone. First and foremost, the speakers. These speakers are the best in the industry. So let me show you.
You're my number one girl. You got everything I need. I know we're meant to be, so let's go fulfill prophecy. Come on. I'll be your hero, baby, if you let me. I promise.
These speakers blow away every single smartphone speakers, period. And I mean period. There is no, I mean, I can go through all of these phones here. Whoop, iPhone, don't fall. You have all these different phones here. Not one of them compare speaker-wise to the Razer phone. So if you want the best speakers, open and shut case, these are the best speakers on the market right now for a smartphone. Something that all other smartphone manufacturers should take a look at. Does that mean having to have this big of a speaker? Probably not. You can obviously redesign it to make it have a better overall look if you don't want the speakers to be so much. But I will say that it does add a little bit of good grip to it when gaming, especially in landscape. So I will say that. The display is buttery smooth. Everything in this display moves so damn quick, and it really is just impressive when you're going through everything, how quickly everything really seems to move. It's just awesome, and just how everything moves in this phone, it's buttery smooth. And that is because of the 120 Hz refresh rate. A lot of apps you can force to take advantage of this refresh rate too, so it really is just impressive how smooth of an experience that is. And then also has to do with the 8 gigs of RAM on this phone. In terms of multitasking, I have yet to use a phone that has this much RAM. I have not had the OnePlus with 8 gigs, so keep that in mind. However, of all the phones I've used, it just runs so smooth. Now, gaming. Gaming is the best. And you see, like, again, this is a casual game right now, but every game I play, I will say runs really well on it, better than any other smartphone. Now, it's an LCD display, so sometimes it does kind of throw me off when I see some reds and when I see some other colors. I'm like, this will look better on the OLED display. But overall, the gaming is the best on here. As you can see on the FPS on certain games, like casual games, you get a steady over 120 FPS, which is just insane. The fact that your FPS stays at that level. It does not stay that way with every other phone. I've tested it on the Pixel, I've tested it on the Note 8. This does the best FPS gaming wise. Now, again, obviously when you do more intensive ones, like when we show you the first person shooter and some other games on there, it's not going to be as good on FPS because you're going more graphics intensive and everything like that. So keep that in mind. But it's just one thing to note. The fingerprint scanner on the side. I love this placement. I feel it's way better than the back placement. Why? Because again, I don't have to lift it up. If my phone is laying flat, I can have this finger program to unlock it, and I don't need to pick up my phone. That is one of my biggest nuisances with a back touch fingerprint, is I hate the fact that I have to lift the phone up in order to unlock it. Whereas a side is better. Front is the best, and that Vivo in-display fingerprint sensor, hopefully that comes to everyone. Come on, Synaptic, you can do it. But yeah, that's a really good thing. And finally, the last positive of this phone, it is the fastest charging phone I have used in the studio to date. Really, honestly, after half an hour, I almost get 60% plus every single time. That is something, again, I cannot say about any smartphone I have in the studio besides that, although I did just get the Huawei Mate 10 Pro, so we'll see how that compares to it. But this is one of the only phones out there with Qualcomm Quick Charge 4.0. So that being said, the charger that it comes with is a 4.0 charger, so it is the fastest out of them. And that is something that hopefully we'll see out of more smartphones in 2018, but it is the only one that I know of that was released in 2017, at least on this scale, this big of a level. And finally, now we get to the biggest downside that I'm sure you've heard from a lot of people about, and that is the camera. Now, full disclosure, some of these photos were already taken after the second update. It's had 2 updates on the smartphone and one concentrated heavily on the camera. But this is my assessment. If you're doing a outside day shot, it's gonna be pretty decent, especially if the subject is a really wonderful one. You have lots of lighting. This shot looks really great, and really you're only going to notice that it's not as good as other smartphones if you compare it side by side. But if I posted this to Instagram and told you, oh, it was shot with a Samsung or an iPhone, you'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's a good photo, that makes sense. And people would believe it just because it's really good during the day. So in day shots, it's really good. However, there is something that you should know, and that is the night shots are the things that have the most trouble with. Now, I did try using the Google camera, which has HDR+, so it's basically, I took the camera from my Pixel and I put it onto this phone. Now, the software is what I'm saying. So I took that software and put it onto this phone. Now, in doing that, you get better low light photos. And I would recommend, and you can get this off apkmirror.com and a lot of other websites, just search for the Google photo, and it works for any Snapdragon 835 processor, which is pretty much every flagship this year. So that being said, with that, I will say that the night shots turn better in dawn, definitely better. The dawn shot looked way better with this photo, which was taken with the Google camera, than with the regular photo. And the low light is definitely helped. Again, some really good looking shots with the Google camera is doing far better than the regular camera. Now at this point, I did not have the update. It was one day, then the next day I got the update. So this one was without the update, but I did use the Google camera and it did come out good. And finally, with a really low light though, it still struggles. I mean, with a really, really dark image, it's not going to be the same as comparing to a very bright image. So that's the biggest thing. Your low light is going to be the thing that suffers more on the camera. So if you are worried about the camera, that is something you should be worried about. Now, let's go over price before I wrap this all up and go into final thoughts. Overall, with the price point, this is a cheaper smartphone than a lot of other smartphones. Right now, you can typically get this for $700. There's always sales happening, so keep that in mind. But typically, really good price point considering most flagships this year are between $850 and $1,000. So that being said, this is definitely a great smartphone for the price. Now, I think its main competition price-wise, you have to consider it, is with the OnePlus, because you're talking a $600 smartphone really with the specs to match this. And that smartphone will really kind of just measure up against it very well with a better camera. Now, this one has a better display, arguably, not OLED, but you have a way better refresh rate, better speakers, you know, not a headphone jack though, so you kind of go back and forth between those phones on which one's better, but price-wise, that would be the main competition against it. However, I will say that you have to keep in mind these things with this phone. And that is, this is a company that does a lot of updates on their computers. When it comes to updates on their computers, Razer definitely sticks with updates. So that's one thing that's really important. Second thing is there's already been 2 updates to the camera since its launch. And you're talking about, it was what, December launch, I think it was. Early December is when it launched, or late November. So that's pretty impressive for 2 months, 2 updates. That's what we like to see. However, you also have to keep in mind this is a first generation phone, and that's my conclusion with this. In terms of first generation phones, it's hard to argue that this is not the best first generation phone in this decade at the very least. You can talk about obviously bigger phones like the iPhone, the Galaxy S having a bigger impact when they came out in the late 2000s, 2000. But in the teens and 2000s, this one really is pretty much the best one I would say that's come out, and it's made such a great impact. Overall, would I recommend buying this phone? As we always conclude at the end, would this phone be a great one to buy? Well, I have to say for the price point, it's better and really good for certain things to a lot of flagships. Obviously, if you're doing it for gaming or audio, this is a really good one you should consider. The biggest thing is if you do take a lot of photos. If camera is priority, then yes, I will say like the OnePlus 5T or the Galaxy S8 for a smaller phone with a lot of features is going to be a better one to go with. But in terms of convenience of the fingerprint scanner being at a better placement than like Samsung smartphones, in terms of the audio quality being worlds better than all other smartphones, and in terms of the charging being far superior to other smartphones, it has a lot going for it, especially for a first generation phone, and it more so gets me excited to see what Razer's going to come out with this year. That is what I really look forward to. In terms of a smartphone, yes, I will say what you have heard a little bit, and that is for a camera, yes, it still needs some updates, and maybe as those updates come out, we can revisit this phone in a couple months. But as of right now, you should definitely consider this smartphone if the camera is not the top priority. All right, guys, thank you as always so much for watching. This has been RICKY, the YouTube Tech Guy. Thank you for watching our video. If you liked it, why don't you go ahead and subscribe up there. Make sure you follow us on social media right here. And of course, check out our latest video up there. And right down here, you're going to find the perfect video for you. Or at least that's what YouTube tells me. Thanks again.